very good friend of many years. We won't say how many. Andrew Wan, who is the concertmaster of the Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. I'll do a quick introduction for our French listeners. Bonjour, je m'appelle Jennifer West. Aujourd'hui, j'ai le plaisir de parler avec Andrew Wan, le violon solo de l'Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. And we'll start with a quick territorial acknowledgement. Andrew and I both grew up on Treaty 6 land, which is the traditional territory of the Cree Nation and the Métis Nation. Andrew finds himself in Montreal, which is on the traditional territory of the Huron Nation, and I am in Vancouver, which is the unceded territory of the Coast Salish Nation of Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, and Squamish. And people have been making music on the lands where we grew up and where we are now for thousands of years. And we're grateful to share in that journey. So Andrew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing a lot better. About 2 minutes ago, I freaked out because I thought, oh, do I need to have Facebook to log into this meeting? And I was searching furiously through my email, and sorry about that, but I'm happy to see you. Thanks
Very
for
happy to see you too, my friend. Um, Andrew is wisely a millennial who is not on Facebook or social media. And I really look up to you for that because that is
No, I
just
had Facebook. I did have it for a while, and if I had it, I would be on it a lot.
it's a little bit of a dopamine hit, that's for sure. Um, so we'll just get right into this conversation. Our audience does know you. They've heard you play with Jonathan. They've heard you play with your quartet.
Yeah.
But maybe you could answer a few rapid fire questions for us. What is your favorite symphonic work to perform?
To perform, um, favorite symphonic work to listen to versus perform would be very different.
Hmm.
Like to listen to lately, I just had the chance to play Brahms' Requiem again a few weeks ago, and it's just uh, it was such an enjoyable experience, and
Hmm.
it reminded me how much I really love that piece. But is it as fun as playing a Mahler symphony or a Strauss tone poem? Probably not. Those are always fun when you can lay into it as a violin section. So I would have to say probably a Strauss tone poem or something like that to perform.
Well, and this is a perfect time for me to mention that video of the Brahms Requiem is available on YouTube. And I will try to remember to post that in the comments of this interview because within 4 minutes, I was in tears. It was such a poignant performance.
I
And
don't think I play in the first 4 minutes.
yeah, you don't play in the first 4 minutes, but Brian did.
Brian did. So it's actually it was a beautiful performance because it was an arrangement for kind of a chamber-sized orchestra. So we had only one string player per part, and I have to hand it to the choir who sang the entire piece in masks, and they were so far away from us. The last singer um, to the conductor must have been, I don't know, 75 meters or something like that, and it held together really well. And I had a really good time recording that piece.
That's wonderful. And I think I'm going to listen to it again on this third Sunday in Advent and just kind of have a cup of tea and listen to that performance. And could you hear their words clearly? How was the diction? Because singing with a mask, I can't imagine.
Yeah, actually uh, I was really impressed with how they handled it, and they were prepared to sing in masks. It wasn't a last minute thing.
Hmm.
With all the safety protocols, I think they technically were allowed to sing without masks, but I think it just made everyone feel more comfortable in that setting. It is a really boomy church, so I was surprised that I was able to hear um, the words really well. And we weren't a big orchestra, and so the balancing was not as difficult as one might think.
Hmm. So our next rapid fire question to get to know your musical taste a little better. What is your favorite piece of chamber music to either listen to or perform?
Okay, maybe it's the same piece. Probably would have to be Ravel Piano Trio. I really love that piece.
Hmm.
I mean, I love, obviously, with my quartet, we went through every single Beethoven quartet with the exception of Opus 18, number 2, which we still have to learn together to complete our cycle. But of course, I love those pieces, but I don't know if I love performing them as much as some other works. Schoenberg, Verklärte Nacht. I really
I
like that piece.
I was hoping you would say Verklärte Nacht because
Yeah.
that has been an earworm for me lately. And just the story behind it, how like they don't desert each other. It's stunning.
Yeah. So that's very satisfying to play and to listen to every single time that comes up. Um,
Hmm.
and then a couple weeks ago, I got to play with a harpsichordist. I got to play the first three accompanied Bach sonatas, and I just had a blast working on those. So yeah, I mean that's chamber music, and I really loved that.
That is definitely chamber music, and I actually I wanted to ask you about that because I subscribed to a few of the Festival de Bach concerts and heard you and Luc Beauséjour, and it was wonderful. And
Thank
I've
you.
known you for quite a while, and I know that you're definitely into the romantic repertoire. Like we were always talking about Brahms and late Beethoven. How was it to play with a harpsichordist? Because I don't know if you've done that a lot before. So tell us
No, I
about that
haven't done that very
experience.
much. I mean, I've done it before, and yeah, it's that was it was that was a fun process for me to because I had the time to kind of um, if this was any other typical year, and if I was asked to play that concert, maybe I would have approached it a little bit differently. But I had some more time,
Hmm.
with this new reality where we all have microphones, and I have a pretty decent Zoom teaching setup here
Hmm.
for some of my lessons. And in the last couple of months, I've just gotten really into just recording myself just for myself, and that's been really instrumental. And it helped me kind of address my approach to this repertoire a little bit. Playing on a modern setup with a modern bow. The question is how far do I want to go down that path of being historically accurate? And I just wanted it to sound like a genuine attempt,
Hmm.
and just try to copy, and not just do something, make a gesture that sounds baroque just for the sake of doing it that way to be in the Baroque Festival in Montreal.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say recording myself was really helpful to find my voice in this music. So that was a lot of fun. And I've extended that to all this other stuff that I'm working on right now. Like this next week, I have to make my final recording with Charles. Um, so
So
over
excited.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We're really excited. So over the last 2 years, we've recorded um, seven of the 10 Beethoven sonatas, and the second CD came out, I don't know, like a month ago. And then
Hmm.
the last CD of 4, 9, 10. So 9 obviously being Kreutzer Sonata and 10 being what it is, we're super amped up to record. And the
Unreal.
difference, yeah, the difference between previous recordings, where we got a chance to performed them quite a bit before we went into our recording sessions. Here, we only performed them for a public, I don't know, maybe 3 times. Um, but we actually had the benefit of recording it twice, actually, for video cameras. And we were able to study that, and we record our rehearsals, and that's been a
Mhm.
new part of our process and really helpful.
So this is really funny you're mentioning this because at my voice lesson yesterday and on Thursday, my teacher said, Jennifer, get out your phone and record yourself. Jennifer, get out your phone and record yourself. And I said, oh no, it's okay. I know how bad I sound.
Was it a Zoom lesson or was it
Yeah.
yeah.
And it just made me like for you to say that you are recording yourself. I was like, okay, if Andrew is, maybe the rest of us should try it too.
No, well, I was totally, I mean, I have done it over the years, but usually it's like a few days before I have a performance and just to check up on stuff. And then,
Hmm.
you can only change so much if you're doing it that late in the game. And I know the reticence. Um, Even this afternoon when I was practicing before I met up with you guys, um, I was practicing and, my microphone was downstairs, and I was kind of like I spent about 20 minutes debating while I was practicing. Should I go get it and record myself? No, it's downstairs. I don't want to go get it. And I don't know if I want to listen to what I'm doing right now. But then I sucked it up, and then I brought it up, and I immediately, it's a time-saving measure because you're not forced to listen to yourself during your practice in real time, and you can just focus on, like a task, and finding a solution for something, and then you can listen to it on your own time afterwards and see if it worked. And in a way, that helps with your real time listening, because it just kind of, I was just thinking about how it just simplifies things because you're not thinking about two things at once when you're practicing. You're only thinking about that one thing, and then you can see how it worked out later. So that's been nice for me to realize.
I'm going to be sharing these tips with my piano students.
Yeah, I mean, I was a firm believer in recording, and ask my students how often they're doing it, and it's I'm less of a hypocrite these days.
Oh, it we have to practice what we preach, and that's the hardest part is putting it into action. Um, our last final sort of question for the rapid round is after a concert, what is your favorite meal or drink? Or
Oh,
both?
yeah, no, I guess with the less concerts on my docket since March, like
So say we all.
wait, because usually I would have a dinner before the show, which was like not sizable but substantial, um,
Mhm.
and then I would always have to eat something afterwards.
Second
And
dinner.
yeah, second dinner, and the OSM. If we had an OSM concert, that would usually be an 8 o'clock show and finish sometimes close to 10:15, 10:30, and I get
Mhm.
home, and then you're eating almost another full dinner. Now, when we're making our recordings, we do them at 7 p.m. and it's usually an hour and 15 show. So, I'm eating a smaller thing before and then the bigger meal afterwards. And I'm a sucker for like fries, so I'll eat fries if I can. Um, but with less shows, I'm eating probably less fries. I mean, I like everything. I really will eat anything, and I'll have a beer. I like beer.
Great. Um, True Alberta boy.
Yeah.
So that leads me to another question about the recording process now. How many takes does the OSM have to do, or is it just come in live? That's it, one take.
Yeah, so that's it. We're doing it all in one take. Uh,
Nice.
we've
Sounds
done
great.
a couple rehearsals, and then we'll have the dress rehearsal. And I think they do turn on the not the cameras because we're not wearing our concert clothes for that, but they will
Mhm.
turn on the microphones just in case there's a disaster at night. But I don't know how much editing they can do between um, going back and forth between the audio takes because we're beholden to the one image that we have, right? The one video that we have. So I think they very much wanted to endeavor to make it feel like a concert. And if we're in there like doing multiple runs at something, then you just kind of lose the momentum of having a live concert. Even though
Mhm.
these only a handful of our concerts are live broadcasts, um, but we very much just run things through, and it's a different model right now. There's probably some kind of clause that in our collective bargaining agreement that made it such that we can't turn every single concert event into a recording session because
Yes.
that'd be too expensive, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's
I
why
would
we got.
imagine so. So this is sort of an impromptu question. What makes the concertmaster solos of Scheherazade so special?
Oh,
Because they
well,
just
those,
are enchanting, at least to me.
I like playing those. Well, they're a little bit unique in that the first, besides okay, the the first solo and many of the other ones, you're only just playing with the harpist, and then
Mhm.
you have this gargantuan work, and then all of a sudden you have this duet with the harpist, and we're very lucky at the OSM to have a beautiful harpist, Jennifer Schwartz, and I really like playing this with her because it really is very much like chamber music, playing with her, anything. But in that particular piece, we're so far apart from each other because we're such a large orchestra. But I just feel like she responds so beautifully. Of course, there's a couple of other solos where the rest of the orchestra is playing, but it very much is this kind of an aside, right?
Mhm.
Where
Conversation almost, or chamber music.
yeah, absolutely. So
Awesome.
yeah, I like working on those, and I have in the second movement, I have this really unorthodox fingering where maybe I'll send it to you afterwards. It's so funny. Everyone goes. It's at the end of the first solo of the second movement.
Hmm.
There's only that solo in the second movement, and it goes up very high. But I go up really high on the A string instead of going really high up on the E string, or halfway up on the E string, and it just gives a different color. And I think it always shocks everyone in my orchestra that I do that, and because it's kind of like a high risk, high reward sort of thing. Because if you do it right, it can sound really, really
Great.
great, and
Yeah.
if you don't do it right, it can sound not that great.
So I'm gonna take a risk because we've been friends for a long time and tease you. Is the fingering 1 1 1 1, Andy?
No, I'm more of a 3 3 3 3 guy.
Okay,
Yeah.
right on. Um, So your job has changed dramatically this year. If I would have asked you what's your job like as concertmaster in 2019, and then now during this historical pandemic, what is a regular concertmaster day like for you, and what is it like now? How has it changed?
Um, well, it actually hasn't. I mean, there's just less of everything. Um, in March and April and in May, where nothing was going on, where everyone was at home, obviously
Mm-hmm.
that was a completely different model. But the model has shifted somewhat, where we're not getting. We don't have a music director this year.
Oh, okay.
Because we're just in the middle of a search.
Hmm.
And we also, because of quarantining, we've only been able to have a few international guests. So um, instead of having a concert cycle every week, it's every 2 weeks or something like that, or every 3 weeks.
Hmm.
So we still are doing stuff, and I have to say, even though it's less concerts overall, the weeks that we are working, they feel rather busy.
I
Um,
sure, for
and
sure.
so a typical week for me, I would be balancing, going to rehearsals, and then going to McGill to teach. And this year, I have 6 private students, and so that hasn't changed. And we are able to have lessons in person at McGill. That's one of the activities that the school at large has greenlit. So there
Hmm.
are safety measures in place where we have a plexiglass in the studio, and I have a mask and student, and they all play in masks.
Yes.
And we have like a sign in on our. It's called Minerva, which is like a McGill.
Health tech.
Yeah, like a interface where we just kind of, yeah, health check sort of thing.
Hmm.
So I'm still doing the tasks that I was going to do anyways, but it's just a little bit less. Everything just feels a little bit weirder. I just came back 2 days ago from Toronto, where um, we played a concert in Kerner Hall with Charles Richard, Charles Richard Hamelin, and James Ennis with my quartet, where our violist Eric Nowlin, couldn't cross the border because the land borders closed, and he didn't have time to quarantine for 2 weeks. So we played
Hmm.
great violist Sharon Way, and then Jonathan Crow, the other violinist in the quartet. He wasn't feeling well, and he thought, well, I don't think I have COVID, but just in case, like I don't want to get anybody sick. So Barry Schiffman filled in for him last minute, and of course,
Wow.
in case I hope I'm allowed to share this, but it was negative and it's all fine. Um, it was just surreal because I was playing with, half of the new Orford Quartet, and we were all wearing masks, all 6 of us.
Hmm.
There was nobody in the hall, not even cameramen. They just have cameras there, and it's a different feeling. But all the credit to Mervan Mehta, who put this series together, where he really endeavored to make it a special event sort of thing where people could listen to it live. And we were lamenting the fact, James and I were talking on Monday or Tuesday about how we really just miss playing for people live. And,
Hmm. It's so
you know,
true.
it takes a toll on you when you're constantly just playing for the microphone. And we just want sometimes the feeling of just letting go of a concert. After you play a note, it's not stored on YouTube or something like that, or whatever, SoundCloud or
Hmm.
Facebook.
And that's
Uh,
the thing about these virtual performances. I think um, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, is recording for us in New York next week. And I asked him, like, so how are you feeling? And he's like, I am so incredibly nervous. I said, why? He's like, because that damn thing's going to be on YouTube forever.
yeah, and I think everybody feels this way and can't wait to,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, I think it's been great that there's been so much content out there for people, and
Mhm.
I think music and art does make people feel better during this difficult time. But it will be nice. I think there's going to be an outpouring of enthusiasm for live events, sports, music, restaurants. I very much will be going to restaurants again.
Same, yeah. And in our home province of Alberta, today is the last day to dine in.
Okay.
So it's BC is fine. I'm not sure how Quebec is doing with live dining. Um,
Oh, we've been in the red zone for a couple months now.
mhm.
But all of the everything is basically open. You can just take stuff home. So
Yeah.
shops and that was the one difference in Ontario or in the Toronto region where it's only the big box stores that are open, and
Hmm.
obviously you can't eat indoors.
Yeah, they're in trouble there. And you know what I hope comes from this pandemic is I hope I can still subscribe to the OSM next season. And it might not be all of the concerts, but I could pick, like maybe they'll have a few special ones that they budget to live stream. And this is something we've been thinking about in our series too, is when these artists come to us from New York, Korea, China, Taiwan, Toronto, Montreal, people back home want to listen to them. And so if we can put aside a budget to do that and have that opportunity available, that makes our audience literally worldwide, which is very cool.
It is
Um,
really
it's yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and I know that um, I've tried to keep very safe. I know some people go hang out with their friends a little bit on Fridays and Saturdays, and I'm like, you know what? I'm at school already with a lot of children, and I think it's better if I stay safe. And it's been really great to watch OSM and Festival de Bach, and I know Prince Edward County had some videos, so it's,
yeah.
it's been great. Tell us about how your relationship with the Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal developed, because um, you know you got started as concertmaster at a pretty young age, and it's such a fabulous orchestra. Tell us the story.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I grew up idolizing this orchestra,
Hmm.
very famous Canadian orchestra that was had worldwide acclaim and made lots of recordings. Um, when I was still at school when this all started, and I was just starting my artist diploma, and then there was it was called the Standard Life OSM competition, Concours OSM, which
Hmm.
is a national competition for the orchestra where there's really great visibility for all the contestants, not just winners, but they have a long history of just really interest. I think anybody who um, how can I put it? They've had awesome people that have taken part in this competition.
Hmm.
Obviously, James Ennis, Richard Hamelin, Jonathan Crow, Ben Hepner, Angela Hewitt, Jan Liziecki. The list goes on and on. The other day, I was scrolling through a list of all of its past contestants and winners, and it's basically a who's who of um, Canadian classical musicians.
Hmm.
And so I entered the competition, and it's a two-round competition. And I remember the pianist in my trio at that time, this was just a matter of weeks before I came to the competition, and he asked me what I was going to play for the final round. And I was supposed to play Sibelius Concerto. And he said, "Yeah, that's great, but won't everyone be playing kind of Sibelius or Brahms or whatever, or Tchaikovsky, like those three big pieces?"
For sure.
And I said, "Yeah, but that's what I've been practicing." He said, "But last year you played Elgar Concerto, and it's like no one ever plays that piece, and I think you should play that piece. I think it'll make you stand out." And he was totally right. And then so I changed my concerto back to Elgar, or not back to Elgar. And I really think that
Wow.
little piece of advice just put me over the top. And then I got to play that piece with the orchestra, and it was just perfect timing because they were looking for a concertmaster at that time, and um,
Hmm.
the head of the competition called me a few weeks later and said, a couple of musicians and the conductor who conducted me spoke with Nagano, who was the music director at the time, and they want to give you a chance, like a week of trial as
Were you shocked? Were you like, what?
no, I wasn't. No, of course I was really shocked and super excited, and yeah, it just went really well. I remember it was Bruckner Fifth Symphony. In the first half, Angela Hewitt played some solo stuff, and then there was some brass chorales, and then so I only had to play one Bruckner Symphony just to get to know Nagano, and then at the end of that week, he said, "Can you come back at the end of the year to finish our season? We're making a recording of Till Fellner playing Beethoven fourth and fifth concertos."
What a wonderful pianist.
Yeah, and it was in the middle of that was going to be my Juilliard graduation, and I was like, "Oh, can it be another week?" But I thought, "Oh, maybe I don't really need to go to another graduation." And then
Hmm.
so I did that week, and that was another nice week. And he said, "Come back in the summer, um, come back in the summer and play an audition for me."
Wow.
Then there's a funny story about that. That funny, there was just a series of events that just made that really notable. So the only date that worked was some date in August,
Hmm.
and I was at a music festival. It's called the Perlman Music Festival in Shelter Island, New York. So it's kind of hard to get to. You have to, I think, I can't remember how I did it. I think you had to take a bus to Shelter Island from LaGuardia or something like that. So it's a few
Was
hours,
Sean Lee there that year too?
maybe.
Okay.
I know Sean from school, great violinist.
Yes. Hi,
And
Sean.
hi, Sean. I haven't seen Sean for a long time. Um, and then a very good friend of mine, pianist, who wasn't at the festival, was his name is Teddy Roby, and I played with him a lot. And I just thought it would just serve me well if I had a pianist that I had rehearsed with a lot and knew really well and I could trust.
Hmm.
And so he came to Shelter Island and rehearsed with me while I was in the middle of this festival. And then we went to Montreal, and I think we got in at, I don't know, 9 or 10 p.m. That last flight in from LaGuardia to Montreal. And then as we were going through customs, Teddy said, "I can't find my passport."
Oh no.
And turns out he had left it on the plane. So we had to wait till everyone had deplaned. And as they were cleaning it, then they could bring us the passport.
Oh.
Went through
Oh.
customs, and we got into the taxi and then get to the hotel. And then as we got out of the taxi, he said, "Dude, I left my passport in the taxi." And I was just
You were flabbergasted.
flabbergasted. Yeah, exactly. And then so what did I do? We just waited, and then the taxi driver came back, a couple hours later, and because he found it,
Oh
and 'cause there was
wow.
Uber at that time where we could have easily called the driver, but it worked
Mhm.
out fine. But it was just I give him a hard time every time I talk to him about that. But it was obviously it was fine. The next day I got to play my audition, and ever since then, I think this is just the other day I was trying to remember how many, like, it's either my 13th or my 12th season. I think it's my 13th season at the
Mhm.
OSM, and that's a trip. I've been here for now a long time, and yeah, I love this orchestra. I'm very
Mm.
proud to be a part of it and be in Canada and live in Quebec. It's really wonderful for me.
And you know, there are just so many of us from the Edmonton music community, Andrew, that are so proud of you.
That's so
Oh
nice.
boy, it's gonna get emotional. Facebook, get over it.
This is the first holiday, like Christmas time, that I'm not going back to Edmonton, and
Me
that's really
too.
sad. But yeah, I very much am proud of the fact that I came from Edmonton. Very much appreciate all the support, obviously, from my teachers and family and friends, and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I miss Edmonton very much.
And that kind of, I have, of course, I have an order to this list of interview questions here, but that I have to just kind of like, I have to go into then, like, who have been your mentors? You mentioned you had mentors in Edmonton. Who has mentored you along the way? Of course, you had wonderful teacher Juilliard. Are there mentors that like haven't been in like a strict academic setting? I'd be more interested in hearing about those.
Well, I mean, I obviously I have to tip my cap to all the teachers that I've had. I started off my undergrad at U of A, and so Martin Risley and Aaron Howe were big influences on me. I remember just watching Martin Risley play week to week at the ESO. He was the concertmaster at the time, and I was just uh, very taken with his approach. And my very first teacher, I was with her for many years, Yoko Wong, really set me up nicely. And then all of my teachers, Masao Kawasaki, Ron Copes, were my principal teachers at Juilliard. But then the cool thing about the artist diploma is that you get to study with anyone on the violin faculty, anyone that you want, anyone you can call up, anyone, and if they have time, you can just play for them. So all those guys that weren't my official teachers that just really had a huge influence on me, like Cho Yang Lin, Don Weilerstein, Mark Steinberg wasn't on faculty, but he's the first violinist of the Brentano Quartet. But I
Mm.
had a really nice relationship with him, and some lessons it'd be 3 4 hours discussions, and he's just like a very warm, brilliant, musician who just had a huge influence on me. I'm also maybe I have more time to think during quarantine, where I'm not just playing too many things, where I have, less things coming up, but still feels substantial. Um, affords me the time to think, sometimes if I'm doing something and I just remember like a little thing that someone said, not maybe it didn't necessarily have to be advice. Maybe they were saying it to someone else or something that they did. I'm think I'm much more open, or I hope I've always been, but I'm just more cognizant of how much I'm grateful for having the chance to learn from people, even when I wasn't a student. Just even last Thursday, just watching James Ennis like 3 feet away from,
No
six,
kidding.
6 feet away from me because of the pandemic, and just watching him play, and it's just outrageous, and I learned something, uh,
All the
and
time.
even just thinking about my old teachers, just phrases that they would say that I would repeat unknowingly, or just amazing how things stuck with me. You don't do, you can't play the violin on your own. You really need a lot of support and a lot of patience from a lot of people, and I had that in spades from a plethora of people.
So you mentioned the Brentano String Quartet, which is, to me, their late Beethoven quartets are the top recordings.
Yeah.
It's just stunning until New Orford makes one. And speaking of quartets, you happen to be in a quartet with the three nicest people, four including you. Um, and how did that quartet start? And hello to Andy Dawes, who lives 10 blocks away from me, who will
Hi
be
to
listening,
Ed.
who
Yeah.
will be listening on YouTube. Original Orford Quartet. How did this quartet start? And um, you know, we've all been missing your group together because you have one cross-border member. It's we've been missing the connection of the four of you. But how did
Mhm.
it start, and why is that group special to you? And what is special about it?
Well, you bring up Andy Dawes, and Jonathan and I, both being Canadian violinists, grew up uh, knowing of and being influenced by, just an excellent model as a professional, as a chamber musician, as a pedagogue. Um, he used to adjudicate Kiwanis festivals that
Mm-hmm.
I would take part of, and he was a faculty member at Kneisel Hall when I was there one summer, and he taught at McGill one year, I think a couple of years before I got here, and he, we talked about Montreal before I got here, and he was so nice, and he was a jury member for the OSM competition too. Now that I think about it, so
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan and I are thrilled to be part of a quartet that is named after his great Orford Quartet. Jonathan was on faculty at the Orford Art Center for many years, and he was asked by the late Davis Joachim, who just passed away a couple weeks ago,
Oh.
to form a quartet. And he asked Brian, who is the principal cellist of the OSM, Brian Manker, and because they had played a lot of chamber music together. And then at that time, I was brand new to Montreal, and Jonathan heard me play. We shared the stage for like the OSM Winners concert. He played some chamber music, and then I played like a four-A sonata, and I think he heard me that way. And we also, yeah, he was very open to me when I joined the orchestra because he had concluded his time as concertmaster of the OSM, and I called him up, and he was very generous with his advice and just welcoming me to the city.
Hmm.
And then Eric Nowlin, I went to Juilliard with, and we had played a little bit together in a chamber orchestra, but we also played poker together, and video games, that sort of thing. So I said,
There's a
think
secret.
this guy will fit in. And then we played our first year. We played one concert at Orford, and then our second year we played two, I think, that summer, and then it just kind of took off from there. I think at the most we've played maybe 30 concerts a year, so it's anywhere in between 12 and 30 concerts a year.
Hmm.
And yeah, I learned a lot from them. They're good friend, we're like family. uh,
Yes.
we we yeah, they're great guys, and I'm lucky to have gone through a lot of repertoire with them. And
Hmm.
I was always the younger one, and they had done a lot of things before I did. Jonathan obviously is concertmaster, and then Brian and Jonathan had faculty at U of T and McGill. So just it was really instrumental in my way of learning how to navigate certainly the academic system. And when I started at McGill, that was very helpful for me to have those guys as models of how this system works, how to address my students,
Mm-hmm.
various situations, that sort of thing. And also, Brian had played all the Beethoven quartets many times, and that's amazing for me to get to play with someone who knows him so well. And yeah, does that answer your question? I forget what the question
It
was.
totally does. It was just why that quartet is so special. And, anyone that has had the honor of hearing you all play together, but then enjoying a meal with you after a concert feels this bond. I've never seen people tease each other so hard.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like Comedy Central with the four of you. I cannot think of times when I've probably laughed so hard that my ribs hurt. Um,
funny,
and it's
we pulled up an old email just to look because we were like, oh, did we play this piece or whatever? And then Jonathan pulled up an old email, or I don't know, maybe someone else did, and it was one of our first emails to each other, like back in 2009, and I think Jonathan signed it, "Take care, guys." And we never like write to each other that way now. And we shared a huge giggle over that. Yeah, because
none of you would say take care, guys, in an email to
no,
each other
but
now.
we obviously are much closer now than we are in the beginning. It's just funny.
And I'm just struck by when you talk about what's happened between age, you know, standard life competition, end of Juilliard, artistic, you know, diploma, and now. And you've talked about this journey in Montreal, and you're so quick to recognize other people's, you know, help on your journey, and that's so cool. And I think that it just shows that music is done in community. A lot of our interviewees on this podcast are solo pianists. It's a little bit of a
I
different
wonder
world.
why.
But I feel like if if there's young students listening to this, which we hope there are, that's one of our goals. I hope that what they get from this is, don't be afraid to formally ask for mentorship and like ask for a quick phone call, bounce a question by text, because there are people out there who are willing to give. And do you find yourself in that role now at McGill? Do you find yourself like now it's your turn?
Yeah, even though, like I said, like I'm still very much, um,
He's still young, everybody.
yeah, I'm still young. No, I mean, I'm still willing to learn, and I even learn from my students when they play, and if they do something beautiful, which they always do, you know, I have no shame stealing it. But I was thinking one of the nice things about this difficult year is that it's forced us to all kind of get better at tech,
Yes.
and like so in a typical year around audition time for McGill programs, the people that are out of town will flock to Montreal and then try to squeeze in lessons with all the faculty members just to see if there's like a
Um,
dynamic or a rapport and like during
like,
their audition period, which is really, I imagine, very stressful for them. And because not only do they have to be ready for an audition where they just have to play their best, they have to, you know, run from lesson to lesson and make a good impression. And then we're very busy, and usually um, I have orchestra or something like that, or I'm in the middle of doing something else with Charles or something. And um, what's been nice is that I've been giving these lessons to prospective students or even students who just want to play for somebody like with regularity, like because of the Zoom thing, because we all have a decent internet connection. I
yeah.
splurged on a decent mic, half decent. Doesn't look as nice as yours, but but it's been kind of nice. It's kind of nice to be able to teach from home, and now
Agree.
the sound is good enough, and I think it takes the stress off of that initial meeting where they're, I gotta like figure out how to get to this room in this building I've never been to before, and I don't speak French, and I have to go to Montreal now. I can just send a Zoom invite, and it's been good. It's been nice, and I'm happy to meet people this way.
And I know, like, I know your schedule is so hectic, and I was thinking as you're talking through this interview, like, I'm really happy that Andrew's had a bit of a break this year. Of course, you're still very busy, but it's not the same heightened level of, like, so packed. And I think that that's really good for anybody at
Yeah,
any point in their career. And I think that this pandemic has taught us, like, how to say no to things we're not passionate about,
yeah.
and how to, like, who are the people we're still in touch with during this thing, who are we checking on. um, yeah, it's I can't imagine we're coming out of this the same. My question now, a couple more questions before we get to some fun hockey smack talk. I've been promising everybody that it's going to happen. So you have this wonderful duo with Charles Richard Omelin. Bonjour, Charles Richard. And it, like, your first two albums, I just sent it to all my violin friends. I was like, okay, go listen, because this is the next level, people. And piano friends too. I was like, okay, go listen. This is it. How did you guys get working together? Because when I saw that that was a partnership, I'm like, no way, this is gonna be too good. So how did this happen?
Um, well, he seems to remember this a little bit better. I have a vague recollection of this. I remember the very. I mean, he's an amazing pianist.
Oh
He's like
yes.
the Canadian pianist now, so I'm very lucky to play with him. Before he went to Yale, he was at McGill, and
Mhm.
I coached like a Kyoko Hashimoto, who's on piano faculty, has this sonata class, and she gets guest. She used to get guest teachers to teach, and apparently I coached him once, but this is like I don't know, 11 years ago. But I
Oh my.
don't really remember that. I'm sure he was amazing back then. I'm sure because he's been amazing for a long time. But then when his career started to take off, even before the Chopin competition where he got second place. And I remember I was sitting at Salle Bourgie, which is our beautiful recital hall, and he was playing a Dvorak piano trio, single movement with Stéphane Tétrault and Victor Fournier-Blain. They were kind of like the young rising stars, and I was just
Mm-hmm.
so taken with his playing. I really, really liked that. And then he had his, I don't know if it was his debut with us, but he was playing Brahms D minor piano concerto at La Naudière. And, you know, I was sitting concertmaster, so we chatted up. We had known each other for a little bit, and we just kind of toyed with the idea of playing with each other. So we played some chamber music together. We played some Brahms together,
Mm.
like piano quartet or a piano trio, that sort of thing. And then he said, you know, 2020 is coming up. Would you want to play the Beethoven sonatas? And I really wanted to. I had kind of gone through them over the course of my career and my studies, and yeah, I did a cycle with an Edmonton fixture, who's a fantastic pianist, Jacques Després, who's on
Yes.
faculty at U of A, and that was really helpful for me. And to get a chance to revisit them with Shaw was really fantastic. And I was just starting my relationship with Analecta, the record label here, and Shaw obviously is recording many things for them. So I think I had done maybe 2 discs with them, and we pitched this idea to record all of them over 3 years. And it's been a really nice partnership, and we're going to continue exploring other composers after this. So that's coming down the pike, and but Beethoven has been a really nice project for us, obviously, because it's just amazing music. But it's also kind of this music lends itself to our our approach, where we see kind of eye to eye about how to come up with solutions for Beethovenian problems, and I think it's been really fantastic partnership for me.
And I think that those sonatas in particular require, well, first of all, they require both musicians to be outstanding. And they require such communication. And as a pianist, I'm going to be a little bit of a pill, and the title is Sonata for Piano and Violin. So
That's true.
it's and I've learned parts of number 7 and parts of 5 as a pianist, and I was like, are you kidding me? I have so many more notes than you. That
But you
it's,
play violin too, right? So you find it harder on piano?
yes,
Yeah.
much harder. Much harder. Actually, Beethoven is easier to sing than he is to play on piano or violin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are.
Not sure about this Schumann guy. He's hard to play and sing.
Yeah, that's our next project where we're going to go through his sonatas.
Oh, oh my goodness, that's so exciting. And then your audience makes a request that the next one after that be Brahms. So two more quick questions. In the string world, there seems to be this colossal, like, Avengers versus other comics debate, old violin versus new violin. And so, first of all, why is this a thing? And um, where is this debate heading? And are there great new instruments out there?
Yeah, there are great old instruments and great new instruments. I guess for the great new instruments, the question is always going to be, are they going to sound great 200, 300 years later, just like
Mm-hmm.
these old instruments do? Um, so I have the pleasure of playing a violin that was crafted in 1744 by the man who worked in the workshop of Stradivarius. And his name is Michelangelo Bergonzi, and son of the more famous Bergonzi.
Mm.
Although this maker is starting to really come into fashion, and then you look at the auction prices for this maker, and
Are they crazy?
they're getting crazy. They're getting crazy. But so is everything that is of this level. Artwork. I
Mhm.
mean, I think these prices are driven up by auctions and that sort of thing, and there's a scarcity, obviously. But are there really good new instruments? For sure. So the cool thing about my quartet, we think it's cool, is Brian started this. He was the first one to get a Sam Zygmuntovich uh, instrument, and so he's a like a very famous maker in Brooklyn, and he just makes top instruments. Yo-Yo has
Very
one, Josh Bell has one, Van Grove has one, and one by one we have started commissioning Sam for an instrument. So I'm the last person to receive mine. I should be coming next year.
That's so
Um,
exciting.
a copy of the Titian Strad, which belongs to Cho Liang Lin.
Mm.
And I was excited to commission this instrument, and but even more excited after I tried Jonathan's Strad copy, which he got, I don't know, in February of last year, and I
Does it
went to.
sound pretty great?
It sounds incredible, and
Great.
I just bought a bow. It's a modern maker based in Montreal. His name is André Lavoie. It sounds great, and it does a lot of beautiful things. And I also have the pleasure of playing on an 1860 bow from Roger Dubois, who runs Canimex, and he has probably got the largest collection of fine instruments, certainly in Canada, if not North America. And he lends them out to a lot of Canadian musicians. And he just won the Order of Canada a couple of weeks ago. So
Fantastic.
I don't know if I answered your question. I think there are going to be even more famous violins that don't suit me, uh,
Hmm.
and there are going to be no-name brand new instruments that suit me. It's very personal, and it just has to be comfortable to play, and you have to be honest about what sound you're producing.
And I know that when I've talked to our mutual friend Timmy Chui, hey Timmy, that he's also mentioned, like, with the Canada Council Instrument Bank, when you pick that instrument and you have to give it back after 3 years, that is a hard time.
Yeah,
You know, where was your Bergonzi made? Which city?
Cremona.
Cremona.
I've been playing on it for probably 11 years now, and I would be really sad to switch instruments.
Oh, it's a part of you for sure.
So
So,
the man who owns my instrument is very generous and very
mhm.
just a huge philanthropist in
It's
Canada.
something I always think about with string instrument players is they rely really heavily on these wonderful programs that give them access to these elite, stunning works of art that are their instruments that they play on, because it really makes a difference for their profession and their career and their recordings. So it's really great. We're going to end our interview on a fun note. How's the Oilers season going this year?
Well, I just heard last week that they kind of are in the process of ratifying some agreement, the NHL and NHLPA. So that's nice. I'm excited that there's going to be some hockey. Being on the East Coast, it's a blessing and a curse that the games start 2 hours later. So the cool thing is, if have a concert that finishes at 10 or whatever, I can run home and at least catch the end of the first period. But I have like the whole game to watch afterwards.
Yeah.
Um, Difficult thing is sometimes, you know, playoffs. I mean, don't make a joke about the Oilers in the playoffs, but if there's to go into double overtime. I remember in 2006 where they made it to game 7 of the finals, and
Hmm.
one of the games was like a triple overtime game, and I was in some bar in New York because I didn't have a TV back then, and we convinced them to let us have this corner TV on the NHL network, and that game went to like 3 a.m. that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited for them to get back at it.
And so, how do you think my Canucks are doing this year? They seem to be pretty strong. I don't know.
No comment. No comment.
No
No,
comment.
I mean, I like. I mean, I was gonna say something. I just want to make sure it's true that if the Oilers were to be knocked out, would I just cheer for any Canadian team? I don't know. Actually, I don't think that's true.
I don't think you would cheer for any Canadian team. I think you're pretty loyal to the
Maybe the
Copper and
Habs.
Blue.
Habs, and then, but probably first the Jets and the Habs,
Hmm.
then Ottawa,
Hmm.
and then Vancouver.
Ouch! I'm hurt.
No,
So
no, and then probably Toronto, and then Calgary.
hurt. And for the record, Andrew and I have never liked the same hockey team.
Uh,
I grew up as a
I only
Flames.
like one hockey team. You know.
That's true. Although I think we're both kind of okay with the Habs.
Yeah.
Ish. Well, it has been such a pleasure to speak with my good friend Andrew Wan, the concertmaster of the Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. I think this is one of the more meaningful conversations I've had on this podcast, and I think that there's some real nuggets of truth for some young musicians out there that this is all done in community, and to hold tight during those years when you're auditioning. And Andrew, we from the Edmonton arts community, it's been so encouraging to watch and to listen to your recordings, and now to subscribe to OSM and be able to watch a few concerts here and there. It's been a true pleasure.
Yeah,
So,
I would say, Jennifer, like I know you're doing lots of great work, and it must be a tough year to keep
mhm,
the series going, but you've pivoted really admirably, and you've always been so welcoming, and
thank
yeah,
you.
just so positive, and providing a platform for musicians. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. All right, so we have a few people to thank. We want to thank the sponsor of this awesome microphone, Tom Lee Music,
Nice.
and our tech sponsor is 2X Education. Again, my guest today was a very dear friend of mine, Andrew Wan, violon solo de l'Orchestre Symphonique de Montréal. This is Jennifer West reminding you to take note and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.